All right. Welcome to this episode of Price on Purpose. I am your host, Stacey Price. I am joined today with Dr. A. Jerome R. Butler. He has sold over 10,000 books. He has a podcast with over 70,000 listeners. He's actually a professor of systematic theology and holds a PhD in counseling. He's a highly decorated veteran, volunteer of the year. He owns 4 businesses and a nonprofit that gives homes away. And he's also a motivational speaker. I'm going down your list here. And I think this is also beautiful. He is a foster father to 3 girls, and he is known as a wisdom on steroids. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Stacey. It is so happy to be here on Price on Purpose. You are just doing some phenomenal things, and I'm so honored to be here with you on today, and look forward to this great conversation with you, my friend.
Oh man, when I'm so glad that I wrote in that group, because that's something I've never done before. That was actually like nerve-wracking for me. I'm like, oh my God, asking for help.
Right.
But I said, you know what, let me just do it. Stop thinking, start doing. And that's my, I like that you, I'm going to say a lot here. I'm just like rambling, but I like that you had a scripture that you were living by. Is that for the month or for the year for you?
Well, it's actually for the year for me. Actually, the St. Francis Assisi's prayer, my family and myself, we have adopted. And the first line is a prayer is to let love always be constant on me, and let me be the change that I expect to see in the world. We know Gandhi also has that same precept, but we try to live by the prayer of St. Francis Assisi, like I said, which we adopted some time ago. Our actual motto, Stacey, is success is on purpose, but also I believe because we live in such a vibrant nation, we live in such a vibrant country, I also believe that success is on purpose, but I believe also failure is on purpose also. I have done many mission trips to Africa. We've dug wells in India during the AIDS epidemic. We were influential in Uganda, bringing finances in and also doing a lot of work in Uganda. And when I look at these nations, and also Haiti, look at these nations, and I look at us, and our poor have cell phones. Well, in some of those nations, a 2-liter bottle is 2-liter bottles is somebody's shoes in some of these nations, Stacey. So like I said, success is on purpose, but so is failure, I feel, in this nation that we live in.
Absolutely. I think that's very well said. And absolutely, I think I like that you said it that way, because I think sometimes as we mature or become our true selves, we see failure as a setback, but we don't see it as part of the process.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to have failure. I believe Babe Ruth had over 6,000. He had 6,000 foul balls before he won the home run hitting record. We know Michael Jordan himself, the great Michael Jordan, 6-time Bulls championship, was thrown off of his middle school team before he made the middle school team. And Tom Brady, who just won his 6th championship, he was a second string for the University of Michigan. In fact, he didn't even go as a first round. So this is what I believe is that, I believe we're created for purpose. A lot of us have position and all this other stuff, but your position does nothing if you don't have purpose. So I really believe that we're created for purpose, Stacey.
Heck yeah. So tell me about how you, actually, I want to start here, because I saw this on your card, and this kind of triggered my brain here. So on your introduction here, it says, first year in college, one professor told you to drop out because his perception of you was that you were better suited for digging ditches rather than academia.
Academia, right.
Academia, sorry.
No problem. No problem.
What is that?
My first year. Now I did pretty good in high school. I'm a kid out of the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
Bronx, New York, and my last 2 years of high school,
Mm-hmm.
my parents moved to Arkansas, so that was a big culture shock for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of I was struggling a little bit with academics when I got to my. In fact, I ended up graduating a year early. I was 16 years old in college,
Wow.
and so I'm sitting here in one of my first English class. And back then, I don't want to date myself, Stacey. I think you're probably a little bit younger than I am, but we still had to use typewriters, and there was no
Love
spell check,
typewriters.
no spell check, and all of that.
Right.
And I had done fairly well in school. You know, I didn't do too bad. I didn't have an enormous academic career in high school, but then I was fired up when I got to college. And one of my first papers, and actually it was a female professor that actually knew my mother. And after I got my first paper back, it was just so horrific. It was really horrific. And I was trying my best. And as I came to the end of that course, she told me, I know your dad works in a factory and you may be better suited for going to work in a factory with your dad. I know some ditch diggers that do pretty well in their lives, and you may be, and her exact words were, you may be better suited for that. So right after that, I was kind of down on myself. And in my family, we had this thing that I have only one sibling, and she's passed back in 2017. But my mother and father always told me, if you're not in college and you are not working, then you can't stay here. So I had lost my job and was at that point was failing out of college. So this professor, she was right on. I was trying my best, but just couldn't seem to get it for whatever reason. And so I was driving home, Stacey, and I hear this thing on the radio said, "Be all that you can be." I said, well, I don't have a job. I'm failing out of college.
Right.
Maybe a career path in the military may do me better. So I went and signed up. I didn't even go home to tell my parents I lost my job and was doing bad in school. And I went and signed up for the military, and they actually begged me, don't do this. This is just not what you need to do. But I was just determined because they had instilled in me this work ethic, that you have to work or you have to at least continue to move up academically. And I wasn't doing any. Plus, I was a knucklehead, 18, at that time, I'm 18-year-old, 17, 18-year-old knucklehead out here doing, what guys do at that age.
Right.
And so the military really was what I needed at that time. So I thank God that he instead that he placed that opportunity that I heard on the radio, because Stacey, this is what I truly believe is that nothing happens on accident.
Correct.
There was,
Agreed.
even though the military was paying for that radio ad, that particular radio ad spoke to where I was at that time.
Right.
And all of my experiences before that led me to hear, because I could have had other things going on. I could have been on a date. It could have been some other things going on that I didn't hear that radio ad, but it resonated in my spirit and in my soul. And like I said, it really, at that point, it really, really changed my life.
That's amazing. I agree with you. I don't, in the past, or, how I used to look at life before, I thought things happened to you.
Yes.
That was my mentality many years ago. And, when you're in that state, timing like that, it's just like, it's just coincidence. But I think, I find it interesting that at that time you kind of, it hit you at that time. So it shows that you were in a certain mindset at that time. I think you were receptive and you were able to receive that message and therefore do that. So tell me a bit about your military background. Was it you were in the Army for such a time?
Yeah.
Like, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it was all a combination of what happened during this particular time. And like I said, when I signed up, I have a uncle, and I'm right now as it stands, we're 5 generations of military. My great grandfather was on the U.S. Roosevelt back in World War II, which was a ship that got hit by 2 kamikaze pilots. Over 700 dead. Thank God my grandfather survived. And he was in one of the war reels that they had. So, so that's in our history. My uncles, myself, and I have 2 children that have served in our nation. So we've had 5 generations that have served this country. And so, I was, kind of already seeing that as part of the path that I wanted to go on because we were a military family. But during this particular time, I had a uncle in Fort Gordon, Georgia. One of his soldiers got angry at him or whatever, and came to his home and shot and killed him in front of his family. And this happened right before I signed up. So again, like I said, I was receptive to hearing that, but also I felt a sense that, man, I'm sitting out here wasting my life. I'm sitting out here as a knucklehead and all this other stuff. And here's a man that had reached one of the highest pinnacles. He was a sergeant major when he died. He reached one of the highest pinnacles in the military and lost his life because of him trying to do what was right. Made one of his soldiers angry, young man was unstable or whatever have you. But so I felt an obligation to not just him, but to all my ancestors that have gone before me. And let me hit you with this real quick, and I'll go on with my military service. I'm gonna answer what you asked me. But one of my books that I brought out, Stacy, is that statistically, rather than to be born just 5 generations, we could win the lottery 27 times statistically than to be born. So there's something powerful about us being created. And we owe it to all of the timing and everything that happened that brought us here at this season of our life. Just 5 generations. We're not talking about the hundreds of generations before us. I just said 5 generations. You could win the lottery 27 times statistically than to be born.
Right.
And so coming to that realization, I felt I owed something to my uncle who had passed, as well as to my ancestors who came before me. So when I got in the military, and I'm just being totally honest with you, I'm one of the most stubborn people that you ever want to meet when it comes to something I'm driven to do.
Right.
2 weeks in, I'm on the phone. Well, before I left, going to basic, my mother told me, she said, "You'll be back in 2 weeks."
Dang.
And I played football and basketball, and I thought I was a little bit tougher than that, that my people would see me like this, she said, "You'll be back in 2 weeks." And so I think it was right at about 2 weeks, one of the drill sergeants was on us and he said, "I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to go home today. You can leave today." And it was like that 2-week period. And all I could hear resonated in my mind was what this little lady in Arkansas said, "You'll be back in 2 weeks." And I was saying to myself, the heck you say, I am going to push my way through no matter what it takes, just to prove you, first of all, that you were wrong, that I have a purpose in me. And it was no mistake for me joining, because if I give up in 2 weeks, then I truly believe I would not be where I am right now. To make a long story short, I've received multiple decorations from being in the military. I was in 8.5 years. I did do some time in Grenada. I did do some time in Germany and in the Middle East during the Gulf War. Very, like I said, highly decorated. All of these accolades that I received from the military, and was so proud of it. And at one time, I was the highest decorated corporal that was in the Army at one time during that particular time. So just to let you know, I had a lot going for myself. We actually ended up receiving, me and my team, because I was a communications operator, me and my team received a letter from the chief of staff of the Army, because we had gotten a shot in Germany, and I'm saying communication shot in Germany, that they had sent out 7 other crews to put this shot in and coordinate and the math and everything. And myself and my crew, we actually got this shot in, which was considered to be an impossible shot. And we actually received some high accolades for that. While the Gulf War was gearing up, I was part of the Patriot missile testing team. So I'm part of history in that, because the Patriot missile is what we use to shoot Scuds down in the Gulf War when missiles were coming into Israel. The Patriot's missile is what they used to shoot them down, and I was part of that that missile system. So, like I said, very highly decorated career in the military. Loved it. And I truly believe every path that I was on in the military led me to where I am right now. So,
heck yes, I can see that. I mean, I think, in the military, from somebody that hasn't been in, but anytime I talk with somebody that has participated or been a member, in a sense, they have a way that they carry themselves, leadership skills, very determined. What would you say is the takeaway that you got?
All of what you just said. The number one thing that I think it taught me, like I say, I'm stubborn, but when you add this other piece I'm getting ready to say to that, is that, do it right the first time. Do it right the first time. Get it done and do it right the first time. One thing I've learned, and I always say, I think I was made for the military and also made to be a minister of the gospel, is that I'm not really smart. I call, I've had a friend of mine called me wisdom on steroids one time, and it just kind of stuck. But I'm not really that smart. But if you give me a direction, like I said, the military did, and I feel a direction to live right by those 66 books, then there's success in it, in all of that. That if I can do it right the first time and complete the mission, everything to me is kind of mission oriented. If I can do it right the first time and complete the mission while I'm on it, I am there for success. Now, keep in mind, like I said earlier, that does not mean there are failures. You will have failures, but again, like I said, Stacey, I'm not too smart. The Bible tells us also that if a righteous man falls down 7 times, he gets back up. So it's not how I fall, it's about how I get up. And let me get up with grace. Let me get up with power. Let me get up with purpose. And at the same time, let me get up in a place where I don't have to hurt anyone else or condemn anybody when I get up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's all about the journey as a whole. Because if we, when I think about sometimes, like even my life or other people's lives, like I'm sure, people look at Oprah and all these other people and they're like, oh my God, how'd they do it? It's like, I think, in those down moments, it's, the purpose is birthed from that. It's the realization, either I don't want to see this happen again, or I can be better, or whatever it is, it sets off some type of trigger. And if you are connected enough to that thing or that moment, you'll get to the other side, because some people don't make it. A lot of people that I've spoken with on my show, this experiences of suicide or suicidal thoughts and things like that. And that's how I realized, even something that you said, the probability of even life itself is so, like, when you really do like when you do the math, like, but behind that, it's like, the reason or the how that you're even here is the blessing. And it's how you learn why that is your truth. So how does somebody that is not that smart get to the point where you're selling or all these books and connecting to so many people? Because I'm assuming that since it's on your card, this moment where this lady said this to you, it hit you. It hit you in a certain way, but in a sense, it made you apply your stubbornness to something else.
Right.
How does that happen for somebody like you?
Well, it was. I say again, I think it was an ignition point for me, because I had to ask myself, okay, I'm looking at my grades, I'm looking at where I came from. Like I said, I'm a kid from the Bronx, and when I came up, in the Bronx, this is before, just being honest, before crack cocaine and all that hit. So my reality, my truths were a little bit different. My truths were not based on color. They were not based on economics and all of this, because where I grew up at, my best friend was a little redhead Irish kid. My first little girlfriend was Puerto Rican. My biggest enemy was Haitian, and so this true melting pot. My mother, like I said, was a nurse. She's a homeopathic nurse.
Nice.
My friend that I was telling you, redhead Irish kid, his dad was a cop, and so we had everybody, from people that were on welfare to professionals in our apartment building, that we were just a real embodiment of America. And so and in my family, there was nothing and no one to tell me that I could not do because. There was nobody in my life that could tell me I could not do because. My favorite school teacher was a Jewish gentleman who died of cancer. And so when I got to this place in my life, like I said, reasonably been successful, played football, did well. I was a long distance track star, all of this. And so the reality came when I hit college that this was another level. And for someone to tell me, okay, you've been reasonably successful. Nobody has told you could not because of the obstacles or roadblocks that society tries to put you in, because that wasn't my truth. And so for her to tell me, and for me to look at a paper and to have a D on it or a C minus, and to hear what her truth was and know what my truth is did not match. Her truth of what she saw, because I truly believe this, it isn't what people say about you, it's how you respond.
Absolutely.
It is never about what people see. This all is just an exterior. This is just all abstract.
Right.
But it's all about what's on the inside.
Right.
And on the inside of me, like I said, while I'm sitting with 18, 19-year-olds in this class, I'm 16 years old sitting in college, and so, from that
wrong already.
From that perspective, I'm still not at the maturity level that some of these other kids are and these other guys are. And I've graduated a year early. I've done everything academically right at the other level, but here's somebody telling me I can't do. And so that fuels something in me, Stacy. It really and truly fueled something in me that I had to say to myself, either it is her truth or it's my truth. Her truth is you're a failure, bar none. What she sees on paper, what she has calculated is you're a statistic, because all of the other statistics here in Arkansas don't look like you. But that was not your reality. That's not your narrative. That was not my narrative. So I truly felt that there was something different. And her words were ignition. Keep in mind, words can either destroy you or they can ignite you.
Absolutely.
And positive words, we love positive words, because positive words, if I told you right now, Stacey, I love you, you'll probably put a smile on your face. We don't even know each other, That's the power of words.
Right.
That's the power of words. But at the same time, the same power that a positive word have, if you use it, a negative word has the same effect. Yeah. So I took her negative words and I made it positive. Even though it was not meant to be positive, I made it positive. And that's amazing. That was it for me, Stacy. Like I said, it was just a match to a flame to me. She might as well have thrown gas on me and get it, because and to be honest with you, my first book, when I got out of the military and we had started some businesses and we started a business. We owned a trailer park at one time. And in the interim of that, I wrote my first book, and had the great opportunity to hand that book to that professor that I was a doctor, just like she was. She was an academic doctor, but in counseling, I had an opportunity to hand her my first book, and she was just so shocked. And I had that moment of clarity, but I also had that moment of being obtuse, where I really wanted to tell her, you made this because of what you said to me then, but I didn't do that. And more of what happened was she celebrated with me. I'm so happy that you did this and everything. And we sat and we talked for hours, and awesome. We kind of caught up in things of that nature. But the beautiful part is I don't even know if she even remember what she said. And sometimes that's what happens to a match. The only thing a match does is it burns for a short period of time, but it can start a forest fire. It can start, if it's thrown on gasoline, it can blow up a car. Just that one match. And that's all her words were. They were matched to this kindling, and this kindling caught on fire, Stacey.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a beautiful story, man. Oh man, the satisfaction in that moment to not only I can't imagine being able to present your work and to, even show that Dr. A. Jerome Butler.
Right.
You know what I mean? She's probably like, "Oh, this is beautiful. I'm so proud of you." It's like, "Oh, but you don't remember."
You don't remember. Yeah. Like I said, I don't know if she did or not. I do know one
more
thing.
For you than anything, though.
She told my mom exactly she told my mom similar to what she told me. So I know she had to remember it because my mother asked me at the time, she said, "What are you doing in school?" I said, "Why?" I said, "Well, why are you saying that?" She told me I won't say the professor's name. She said, "Well, we were talking on the phone and she was just telling me how bad you were doing in school." I was
my goodness.
I was like, "Mom, I'll shake it off. I'll get it together." Well, if you're not in school, that's when she started this whole thing. If you're not in school, you're not working, you can't stay here. And so all of that situation was a match to this flame. And I believe, Stacey, we all have that kindling in us because we all have that purpose. But we've got to find that match. It may not be somebody's negative words. It may be you see a need in your community. It may be that you see a need in this world. And like I said earlier, the great Gandhi phrase, you have to be the change you expect to see in the world. And so it has to start with us. It has to start with us.
That's something I like to repeat to myself, to be the change that you want to see. I wanted to actually mention something that I realized because you said you were 16.
Yes.
I find it so interesting that at that age you were able to kind of not because for some people, I know for me, before 16, if somebody said that to me, I would have taken it on. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's just for my makeup. But I find it profound that for your makeup, you were able to be like, all right, I'll show you. You instantly knew that. So I guess my question is, what would you say is that thing that you had? How did you know to kind of formulate that moment in this way to, in a sense, catapult you into who you are today?
Let me tell you a quick story. Stacey, I had older cousins when I was 10 years old. I had older cousins, and my family, like I said, at that point was not very religious, but I had older cousins, and I guess I was 10. They were, 19, 20 years old. And I know this is going to sound really, really crazy. I had my cousins' friends, they would date a guy or something, and I would hold a conversation with them at 10, like they were holding a conversation with another 20 or 30-year-old. And so they all called me, the little baby prophet, and it was kind of like a little, it was kind of like a little joke between them. But the seriousness I had at that time really, really impacted people that were older than I was. And the other side was, I asked myself, I guess I had to be about 13. You were talking about suicide. I'm going to share something I've never shared on the radio before. My wife knows it. When I was 13 years old, I felt like I was kind of an outcast because I was kind of the weird kid. I listened to Steely Dan, jazz, rock and roll. I wasn't really, like I said, growing up in a melting pot musically, everything was energized to me, all music, Latin music, country and Western, everything. And I had some classmates that made me feel so out of place. Like I was such a bird out of water that I even thought about committing suicide a couple of times. I was like, well, maybe, I'm such an oddity. I shouldn't be here, so I had the thought run through my mind. I never did anything about it. Like I said, the only other time I thought about that was when like I said, when my uncle was murdered, and like I said, looking at how I was doing in life and all that he had to offer, and I felt I had nothing to offer at that time. I think what ignited me was I also asked myself a question: where do I want to be? Because when I was 19 years old, for whatever reason, I kept having in my mind this thought of where would I be in 2025? I don't know. Stacey, I have no idea. I have
Interesting.
no earthly idea. Back in 81 and 82, I was asking myself, what
Right.
will it take for me to have all of my dreams satisfied by 2025? And we're nowhere near 2025. But for whatever reason, that date stuck in my mind. And so I knew I had to get through college because my dream was actually to be a pediatrician. I've always loved kids, always loved babies. I missed the mark there. But I always thought, well, if I'm shooting for the stars and I hit the moon, then I made it. At least I made it off of Earth. I've made it away from my mundane. And so that's where I was specifically within myself, was that there was something driving me to get to 2025 with all of my dreams satisfied.
Wow. Yeah, I think, first of all, thank you for sharing that. That's a huge moment. I
Never
really
shared that before with anyone other than my wife. My own mother don't even know that I thought about suicide before. The only person I've ever shared that with is my darling wife, Crystal.
Oh man. Well,
and your audience now. So
yeah. But I'm grateful that you shared it, because I have 2 attempts under my belt,
gotcha.
To end my life, and it was similar. I think for a human, I don't know if we know how natural it is to have that thought when you don't know where you fit.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it's so. I found it interesting that you said you were listening to jazz and you're listening to things that like everybody else at that time in
Right.
your community wasn't really listening to.
Right.
I love classical music. I'm
Yes.
listening to
Yes.
Mozart and
Yeah.
Bach, and
Yes.
I was like first cellist in my grade. Like I was just like, yeah, and I got band, and I'm like, and I'm the only person, of color there,
Right.
so I'm just like, oh, I definitely don't belong. You know what I mean?
Right.
Being bullied in school. There's different things that can happen to somebody when you're in that vulnerable state, when you don't know who you are.
Yeah.
That's why I was mentioning, in a sense, that's kind of I was leading towards, because not a lot of people get to this point.
Right.
And I feel like if we kind of help people understand, like, these thoughts can happen, but there is another side if you allow yourself to see it, if you're in the right environment. Because I was talking about this the other day. I think I did a blog about it, because I think now I'm 36 now, and I'm just starting to see how important it is to surround yourself with certain things. And
Yes.
you start to see what those things are as you add them, and
Yes.
other things start to fall away, whether it's people, things you listen to, watch, whatever it is, environment. Like, I'm starting to see how amazing, in a sense, the brain is
Yes.
made to even, kind of react or be proactive with certain moments, which I find is just fascinating, right? And it's just, I wish that, some people would have known this, but at the same time, it's like, well, how do we know there's a problem unless the problem presents itself?
Exactly.
You know, um, I was watching actually your most recent post from, I believe it was yesterday.
Okay.
I thought that was really, really interesting. So I want to understand a little bit what you teach. So you're currently still a professor?
No. Actually, I had cancer in 2017,
Oh,
prostate
wow.
cancer,
Okay.
and unfortunately, I was pastoring at the time,
Mhm.
and kind of vocational, a pastor, bivocational. Was working as a manager for an extremely large company. I was a corporate buyer with them and all,
Mm.
and had some difficulties after the prostate surgery that took me away from pastoring. I can't be away from the house too long. So everything that we do right now is close to home or a few hours away from home, unfortunately. But so right now, our teaching. I have and I hope I can mention this. I have a sunrise Saturday at 8:00 every 8:00 on Facebook.
Okay.
And basically right now we're teaching from my book. We teach, like I said, even though, hear me closely, because I think people get what I am mixed up. I am not a Christian. Okay, let me state that first of all. The Western ideology of Christianity, I don't apprise to. But let me say this: I am a disciple of Yahshua, who is Jesus. Also, I am a student of a lot of Middle Eastern philosophy.
Yeah,
tons of it. So therefore, my teaching is eclectic. It's not just coming from these 66 books, but we might even talk about the Tao Te Ching, or we may come back with Confucius. We may come out of the Quran. We may come from a host of places.
Right.
And the people that want to plug me into a traditional hole, you have to deal with it, because truth has no agenda. It's just truth. So it's the same thing with wisdom and truth and living your best life. It has no agenda. And so unfortunately, what I teach, people can't really put a label on. And I think that's the draw that we have, is that we have such an eclectic and such a variety of interests that I have. My podcast is what I'm interested in. It's what I love to teach. If I'm called in to teach at the Council of Bishops, which is a group of bishops that are all over the map, from Methodists, they might be Baptists, the whole gamut. At the same time, I might be called in to come speak at a mosque. I have no problem with any of that, or come into corporate America and speak. And so being pigeonholed and labeled, I let people deal with that. I'll let you deal with the label, because understand this: water, we call it water. It doesn't know it's water. It just does. It performs the way it's supposed to perform.
Well said.
And depending on the degree of the water will depend on the makeup of the water. Just 1 degree turns it to mist. Another degree will turn it to ice. Another degree will turn it to liquid. And so by each one of those degrees, you find a way to change name for it. So when it turns to 0, you call it ice, still water. Another degree, you call it mist or steam, still water. So same thing with myself. I have an eclectic mix of philosophy, eclectic mix. But one thing I always teach, preach, coach is love, Stacy. That is, and that's what we're missing right now. I look at, and I think if you watch the thing we shared yesterday, Mother Teresa, her love there in Calcutta, and I love just going back and listening to the kids who she touched and raised and loved on, and how they have become successful, how much love changes our humanity, how much it changes the very physiology. Like I said earlier, if I told you I love you, it's that immediately what hits your ears changes your physiology, because you start to smile, because your whole makeup starts to change. And so that's where we're at. I'm a student of just teaching truth.
Beautiful.
And in all things, I just want to show people love, Stacy.
That's awesome.
So I'm sorry, I can't pigeonhole myself, Christian. I'm sorry, I can't do that. But I am a disciple. I am a disciple of Yahshua. I am a disciple of Yah and Abba, the Father, and love having the Holy Spirit, the Ruka, the Kushta in the Aramaic language. I love all of that, and all of that is the makeup of who I am.
Amazing. By the way, I know this is going to be a long discussion. Let me know if you need a break.
No, I'm good.
All right, you're good? Okay.
Talker, so.
Because some people, I'm like, I don't want you to feel like you chained right now. Like,
no, we're good. We're good, my friend. We're good.
All right. Awesome. I think that was so beautifully said, because I dabble in all types of books. Like, once, my mom, at a young age, she was just like, you got to read, you got to read, you got to read. And then at that point, I'm like, I don't see anything I like to read until, the funny thing is, I think it was fiction in a sense.
Okay.
I started reading books by Daniel Steele.
Okay.
And Daniel Steele turned into James Patterson. Then James
Gotcha.
Patterson, I was like, wait, I thought in my mind at that age, I thought that those were the only books that existed. That
Right.
was just, like movies, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then eventually I came across this book from my sister, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Wow. Yes.
You know that? Are you familiar?
Yes.
You seem familiar.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So when I read that back in 2014, 2015, that was the book that literally changed my life. I came out of depression by reading that book, like from start to finish. And that led me to read The Power of Awareness by Neville. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
So I started to read that. And at the end of that book, I cried.
Got you.
I was like, what? Like it just seemed like, for my life, I had blinders on. Like I was walking around like this, and whatever somebody said, go this way, I went that way.
Right.
Like, all right, no, you're going the wrong way, go this way. And I'm like, all right. And then all of a sudden I read these books and I'm like, oh.
Skills. Got you.
You're like this. Oh, like, like all of a sudden it's like and I realized that I was the one that chose to cover my eyes.
Right.
I was afraid of what I would see.
That's right.
And when I started and it just trickled and it trickled. And that's how I started this show eventually. And it evolved in so many ways. And then I realized, some of the things is that, a lot of people don't know who they are because they don't take the time to learn who they are. And then I realized how important purpose is. So I kind of want to dig into purpose a little bit, into your understanding of it and how you kind of share that with the people that listen to you or are around you. So I guess my first question is to you, what is purpose to you? Like, what is it?
Purpose is at the end of the day, whether I say it's God, is Abba, our Father. You were created for something, whatever that something is. At the end of the day, it is it may not be on your gravestone, but it is what will be the footprint you leave behind, if that makes sense. It will be what you leave behind. And we all don't start there with our purpose, but we all end up with our purpose if we're following what we are passionate about. Let me say this, because I believe passion produces power, and power drives us to our purpose. If I'm passionate about it, whatever that is, like you said, you were a musician, you were very eclectic, and all of this other stuff that happened in your life, Stacey, was leading you to where you are now. This is just a chapter,
right?
That is turned. All of the book of Stacey has yet to be fulfilled. All the book of myself is yet to be fulfilled. But one thing I know, and like I said, I'm not speaking death on my life. I pray I'm here a long time. I think I'm probably on the downward slope more so than the upward slope, if you understand what I'm saying. The Grace Project, if I can say this, like I told you, I used to own a mobile home park. We used to own homes and rental property and all of this other stuff. And now we're in a position that, let me back up. Being a foster parent, we've had an opportunity to see children and families at their worst. We've had an opportunity to see people at their worst. As a pastor, let me say this, and this is nothing against the church, dear hearts. I hope no one takes what I'm saying to say wrong. As a pastor and fighting for us that's sitting on $500,000 to do things in the community and get so much pushback. To fight to get a food pantry or a clothing pantry so we can help the poor, and understanding if our edicts are the Bible, that we're not following the Bible if we're not helping the poor. So now we're in a position that all of this stuff that we have accumulated within, all of the stuff within, some of the material, I won't say wealth, some of the material that we've accumulated has put us in a position now that we have what I feel is going to be our last pinnacle that will, a legacy that will pass on to my next generations. And that is putting people in homes that they don't be homeless, Stacy. Putting them in homes that they will be able to pass on to their families. You know, and at the same time helping to teach them how to be financially sufficient, because one of the businesses we own, we teach people how to invest and things of that nature, which is tied into the Grace Project that we have. And one of the bylaws that's in our bylaws on my board of directors is there always must be a butler sitting on the board of directors. There always must be somebody that has my vision that I've had in hand to put my hands on, or my next generation have a hand to put their hands on, that understand my heart, what we've learned, and pass it on generation after generation. So I feel right now, all the combination, my military, what was said to me by that professor, my life, the businesses that we've had, and all of that has culminated to my purpose is to make sure that as many people as I can, to get them off of the street, their families off of the street. I'm not Jeff Bezos, but what we have, we share with the community, and we try our best to help my brothers and sisters who are other veterans, and also families, because like I said, as foster parents, to help to get them into stable homes where they don't have all of the debt that comes with being homeless. And if you look at it, Stacy, one of our biggest debts that we have is our home. You know, it's a home. So what we do is we do give these homes away, but for 10 years, it's kind of like I guess Habitat for Humanity. For 10 years, we partner with these families, and their mortgages will never get more than $600 a month, between $400 to $600 a month. I don't care if it's $1,800 a month, or to pay for the home. Our trust and our foundation will take care of the rest. After 10 years, they have nothing else to pay. Nothing else to pay after 10 years. But we're in partnership with them for the next 20 years in that they have to, you know, there's no more mortgage. We'll take care of everything else, but they can't sell the home. So we're in partnership with them for 30 years because I want their generations, you know, as their parents pass on, I want them to be able to say, hey, I have a home I don't have to pay for. So what can I do with $1,800 or $2,000 a month when I don't have to pay for a home? So that's part of the vision that we have, Stacy, for these homes to not just be for this time, but for it to create generational wealth. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do. And I think that's my purpose, is to create generational wealth with families and people.
That's amazing. I think, you know.
And I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, Stacy.
No, this is perfect. I need you to. This is about you. No, this is amazing, because this is not the first time I'm hearing that somebody wants to give back in this way. You know, I feel that this message goes to certain people, you know, the people that can handle it, because I know to get funding or to even start something like this takes a lot of hands.
It does.
You know what I mean?
It does.
So I know of, maybe I could see if I could connect you guys. There's another church that I know is in Florida that they try and get homes. I know they're mobile units to make sure that, you know, you're getting people off the streets to give back, and to make sure that they don't have to worry about that burden of the financial, you know, the financial side of it, you know, which I think is amazing, because, you know, I think in this day and age, I think more people have understood now more than ever that the government is not there to just solely depend on for everything.
Right.
You know, and it takes the people to stand up and realize that, you know, if somebody needs help, that we have to help each other. You know, the government is there for certain things, yes, but they're not there for everything. So it takes us, it takes a village to kind of help in that process. So I think what you're doing is amazing. I mean, that's the thing, with purpose. It's so important, but I don't think we as a people talk about it enough because we're focused on, all right, where the stocks at today? All right, I just got to get up. I gotta go to work. I gotta. It's like, okay, but I'm pretty sure you've heard this word adjustment as well. It's going to, I get to give back. I get to serve. I get to share because to me, knowledge when kept to oneself is just words in your
Exactly.
mind. But when you share it, that is when it becomes knowledge. So I think that's amazing that you're sharing it in that way. It's like you now have a place to feel safe, but now I'm going to teach you something. And we just hope that you continue that legacy. So I think that's amazing.
Well, we're gonna do our best, Stacey. And one thing that with my family, we have an 11-year-old, and she's an author as well. But she before we send her out the door every day, one of the lines that we have in our daily prayer is, "Let me be a blessing to someone today." And so that's to myself, that's my wife, my daughter. We and I believe that so is a man thinketh, so is he.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hear her say, well, I had someone that was sitting on the side and nobody talked to him, and I went over there and I talked to him, and guess what, Dad? I made a friend today. And so that means our prayers were answered, or my wife, she of course is my partner and everything, but for whatever reason, let me say this, Stacey, this is my joke. We've been married for 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been together for 15 years. But since we've been married, she hasn't had to work, and I thank God she hasn't had to work.
That's awesome.
But during the pandemic, she works because she wants to. I keep telling her, you don't have to work, but she
like, I need something to do.
Yeah, exactly. Other than sit around with you, dude, I need something to do.
Right.
So she substituted for a while, and then when COVID hit, she was like, well, I don't think I'm going back into the school system. And so she works as a call center operator with a company out of Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And it's just amazing even how those words resonate with her, because she's talking to someone on the phone and they come on mad. And because of her demeanor, because it is in her, from our prayer that morning, Lord, let me help someone today. Let me be a blessing to somebody today. Then when she gets off the phone with them, they're, well, what can I do? Can I send a review to your boss? It was such a pleasure talking with you. I appreciate you. Now she's just there to to help you with an issue, and you're angry, you're cussing when you get off the phone. But when you get off the phone with her, you're touting her praises. But that is also part of her heart. She really, really has a really compassionate and beautiful heart. And I always tell her, if I wasn't married to her, Stacey, I would want to be her best friend. She is just a phenomenal person. I have a friend of mine that I love what he says. He says, your wife was meant for you, and I know the passage in the Bible, it says woman was taken out of man, but he always says, if the rib fits, it's no irritation. And so, which means, if our marriage is really, really consummated and really divine, there's no irritation. And so I truly can say for that time, there is no irritation.
So blessed. Like, oh man, that is so beautiful. I have so many things to say now. Congratulations, by the way, because, I think it's beautiful to hear someone talk about their partner in such positive light. Some people start out with, the pain in my back, the person. No. I'm like, what?
Exactly. The ball and chain and all that stuff. No.
Yeah, I'm like, be careful what you're saying.
Exactly. Exactly. In fact, and one thing we said when we got married, Stacey, is we don't even play with the D word, divorce. We don't even play with that word. We have a lot of fun. And like I said, and just giving you another line in the prayer that we have is, let laughter, love, and joy be our currency with one another. And you know what currency is? It's a form of pay. So you owe me that. We feel we owe that to each other every day, to laugh with each other, to love. It's just all I can say. It's voluminous in our life, and we don't let we don't even get angry with each other. We cut up so much. Plus, we also understand this life is entirely too short. Yeah. And if I've been blessed with somebody in my life, the last thing I want to, they're my partner. They're not my enemy. And like I told her when we first got together, I don't need anyone walking in front of me. I don't need anyone walking behind me. I need somebody that I can put arm in arm on. Absolutely. And walk with me in every area in my life. And I have to say, Miss Crystal is it. She is it. And I'll say this and I'll be quiet about this. I can go on about my wife. I have so much respect for this woman. I actually called her mom and dad, and I just had to thank them for raising this woman. I just had to thank them. I was like, I owe y'all. What do I do? I send y'all a check.
I got tithes to pay. Like, what? Oh, that is so refreshing. That is so beautiful. That brought like tears to my eyes because, I love to hear that because, I think it's because some people are so like I understand they mean well, and I say that like that.
I got you there,
but they mean well.
I got you.
Sometimes I feel like some people just got to jolt somebody every once in a while, just a little step, But I love you. It's like the button.
But exactly, either you do or you don't. Right? Exactly. Either you do or you don't. That's right.
Exactly.
Right.
So I love that you guys have that union and. I find it so funny. I want to touch upon a couple of things you said. So did you say that your daughter is 11?
Yes, I did. We started over again. Let me say that, Stacy. We started over again when our son, when he was 17 and she had him from a previous relationship. Like I said, we've been together 15 years. But when he was 17, I came in his life when he was 12 and I don't have any stepchildren. He's my son. And I had 2 children from a previous marriage. And so he was 17 years old. And, we're sitting here and I would always tease her. I said, we get this kid out of here. I'm going to get me a Ferrari. That's a Ferrari or a Bentley. I'm going to get that. So I tell you how God set us up because my brother-in-law and his wife had a little girl and they were having some scheduling problems. And like I said, my wife, she didn't work, at that time. And so my brother-in-law and his wife, they asked us if we could take this baby in for a few weeks till they could get their scheduling, find a babysitter. And Stacy, I fell in love with the baby. Oh. I fell absolutely in love with this little girl. And when they came and got her, I booed and I cried like a baby. I am being so serious. And my wife said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Yeah." I'm just going to miss her. I was telling my wife because they lived in Atlanta and we live in South Carolina. I said, "Well, maybe we can go see her once a month and all that." My wife's like, "This man is lost. He's lost his mind."
I don't think that's going to work.
Exactly. So she said, "Well, do you want a baby? You want to have a baby?" I said, "I would love to have a baby, And so I'm just telling you what happened. Now we're just being for real. So she said, "Well, we'll try for a month."
The face you made. Got it.
Well, 11 years later, my little one is here.
Got it. Roger that.
Exactly. It was so funny when she got when she was taking I told her she was pregnant before she was. And she got the pregnancy test. She said, "There's no way possible. It's no way possible." I said, "Girl, it's the 28th day." I said, "You pregnant?" She took the pregnancy test and it came back positive and she put in a drawer. She said it can't be true. But she went to the doctor and the doctor said, "Well, you're so many weeks." She said, "So many weeks for what?"
That is amazing. I love how you told this story. Look, when you have a will,
there you go. Exactly.
There is a way.
Exactly. So I pick up my daughter and I call her my little Ferrari. And awesome. My niece is named Janaya. So so my daughter's name is Adriana, but we call her, my nickname for her is Janaya 2.0. So she
2.0.
knows the only reason she's here is because of her cousin.
That is hilarious. Now, so second part, did you say she's an author?
Yeah, she actually wrote a book that I helped to co-author when she was 9, and it is actually is a kind of loosely based Christian fantasy book, but it's about her 3 foster sisters, and I think her concept and everything was just phenomenal. It is I think it's a beautiful little book for kids, and like I said, it's about her three foster sisters and kind of their misadventures. And somewhere along the line, I guess she's going to look at doing a number 2. She is so much like me. She told me I just finished a devotional in August, and so I said, well, when are you going to write your other book? She said, I'll wait till you get yours done because I need all of your attention. So I said, so whenever she gets ready, I guess we'll, that was 2 years ago. With her first book, so I guess whenever she's ready, we'll write the sequel to this one.
She's like, when you're finished.
Oh yeah, when you're finished, we'll get on my book. So.
I love it. So how did that? I'm now curious. Like, did she say she wanted to write a book?
Yes.
Like,
she did. Yeah. Because like I said, I've written since this book is number 7. So when I was working on the 5th book, and going through. Book signings and all the stuff that goes along with books, and she saw all of this and she's looking at this book with my name and she said, well, Dad, I'd love to write a book. And I said, well, what do you want to write a book about? And she said, well, I'm really not sure. And we had the last foster child that we had in our home permanently was 2018. And so after things slowed down for us, like I told you, I was dealing with the cancer and everything. She came again and she said, Dad, I really want to write this book. And she had been looking at stuff about 4 years. She had actually had notes and some thoughts and everything she had for over 4 years. And so we compiled all that together, and then her little book was birthed, and it's called The Crystal Kingdom. So her little book is like I said, I think it's very well written. It has some serious concepts in it, and kind of like I said, if you read it and you know the Bible a little bit, there's a dragon in it that's called Willow, and in fact I think the Bible says that he'll eat the dust from the earth, but that's part of Willow. Willow becomes a dragon. He was a snake that becomes a dragon, so he eats the dust, and that's how he grows into this dragon. So it's some biblical principles in it. But like I said, it's a fantasy. You can go to our website, drajrbutler.com. You can get it right there. And to be honest with you, we don't sell any of our books. We've done so well with our books. I'm not being arrogant. I'm just being for real. That I don't want to put any more money in Jeff Bezos' pocket. So we don't do Amazon. So all of our books are sold on our website.
That is amazing. I'll put that up here. Oh my goodness. I went to your site, didn't realize the book was right there in front of my face. Okay. That is amazing. You don't hear that too much of kids writing books. And I think that just shows the type of home that you have or that you've cultivated, to have that inspiration in her, because it's so funny. I wanted to be an author for quite some time. It's something I'm still in process of, but once I started to read books, I said, I got to write something, but I wanted to also comment on your wife doing customer care, because that's my background. I spent over 17 years in that industry, and I realized how important it is to have that foundation of positivity or optimism before you even get on the phone, because I think some people get stuck in the mindset that the customer is always right. And they kind of forget themselves. But it's like, no, you're an important piece of this communication too. And once you say that the person that's actually handling the phone call is the one that's the most important, then you transmit that energy for this other person to feel important too.
Exactly.
So that's going to be something else down the line that we got to work on. It's so funny. I think you would probably let me know if this is your experience. It's like, you do one thing and then it kind of births another and then it
Oh
births
yes,
another and then it births
yes.
and you just never stop. Like, do you find that as well?
Definitely, definitely. The podcast
Mm,
was actually birthed in that way because when my when the ministry stopped, when I stopped pastoring,
mm,
I had done blog talk radio for 7 years, and it did very, very well. We did
mm.
very well, but this strange new medium known as podcasting was so strange to me, and I was like, "What is this?"
Right.
I'm like, I don't know if I want to deal with it. So, and just to share with you, and I mentioned my sister died in 2000 and
Mm,
excuse me, 2016. My
mm.
dad died 8 months later,
Oh,
and
wow.
then a month later, I had prostate cancer surgery.
Mm,
So I had a lot go on
right.
in a year, and for whatever reason, I had a very good friend of mine. Her name is Tasha Rollins. She's a certified clinical counselor, and we had gone to school together, and just a real good friend of ours, and we've done traveling marriage conferences as she and her husband have gone with us and have done some teaching as well, some coaching as well. And she had this podcast going on, and I called her and I said, well, Tasha, I've taken 3 years off, the ministry is ending as far as me pastoring. I said, what is this strange medium called podcasting? I said,
Sitting there with like a clipboard and a pen, like, tell me
exactly.
about it.
What is this strange? Like when we went from the buggy to the car.
Right. Is this
What
like
is
the
this strange
Model
vehicle?
T radio? What is
Exactly. And so
okay.
she met me at a Starbucks close to where she lived at,
Mhm.
and she had this long yellow notepad, and I still have the notepad
Mm.
of just things to do equipment wise and all of that, and some of the things that she had fallen at, she didn't want me to have to go through. So
Mm.
she had
That's
all of
very
it. Very
nice.
organized young lady, and to be honest with you, just really, really a sweet friend of mine. And I think the ministry ended January 1, 2020, and the podcast started January 5th, 2020. So we're getting ready to go on our
Mm.
second year. And like I said, we've had 70,000
Congratulations.
downloads, have all been
Wild.
organic. And, I want to say that because, there are people out there, well, I can get you so many downloads and all that. Everything's been organic. And but keep in mind, like I said, I did blog talk for 7 years. So a
Mm.
lot of so we use a lot of our mailing lists and let people know,
Nice.
hey guys, we're going to podcasting, so you guys don't have to look at one platform. We're going to be on all social media, all these other platforms. And so I think our first month or so, we had close to, I want to say close to 8,000 downloads,
Amazing.
first couple of shows. And
Right.
so at that point, I felt, this is what we need to do. Unfortunately, we do 2 shows a week. I'm going to
Uh-huh.
have to slow down to 1 because, as you well know, there's a lot that goes into it, and it really is draining. It really is time consuming, and it is draining. But I so enjoy it. I so
Yeah.
enjoy it, Stacey.
That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful because podcasting is a great way to find your people
Yes.
and to also, keep them in the loop of what you're doing. It's a great way to even develop, a lot of people like to throw around the word passive income in a
Hmm.
sense.
Hmm.
It's really a powerful thing. And for me, I wanted to get into radio, but I didn't want to go to school for it. I was just like, I'm not spending 4
Right.
years in communications. There's got to be a better way. So when I read The Power of Now back in 2015, I was like, I got to start a radio show because I wrote,
Mhm.
I think it was 105.1. I think I wrote Power 105. I think that's who I wrote. I forget what radio station I wrote. And I'm like into like fountain pens and like
Okay.
old school like writing letters. So I
Got
was
you.
like, let me this is gonna seal the deal. Literally, I got the wax, like I wrote
Right.
this handwritten letter. I'm like, yo, they're gonna like write me back and be like, come on in because
Right.
of the effort. And
Right.
they were like, that's not how we do this. They're like, you got to go through the proper channels. And I was
Yes,
just
I
like,
got you.
no. So because of podcasting, I was able to go to what I call YouTube University and
Yes.
teach
Yes.
myself.
Yes.
And once I figured that out, it just, went.
Yeah.
And now I have probably, I don't know if it's still at 30 something thousand listens, but it's continuing to grow. And I've realized that it's something that actually helps people.
Right. Exactly.
With what I'm trying to do is help people, if they are on that verge to be like, look, I quit, that they know that there is another side.
That
but
is.
the thing is, you can't see it because you actually create it.
That's
It's
right.
created for you, but you don't know it's there, and then you have to find it.
That's right.
So that's when I kind of started to get into podcasting. But I think that's amazing that you were able to, it's beautiful to see that you're able to connect to so many people in so many avenues, whether it's through your book, through, whether you call it ministry,
Right.
And also through the show. Like I said, I really enjoyed your most recent episode, which can be found on YouTube. I liked that you talked about, that idea in a sense of, actually, I did want to ask you because you were talking about, being a sculptor.
Yes.
And how in some places or in some situations there can be, maybe, I don't even know if I want to say a person, because it can be a person, or it can be in an environment where they want you to do well, but only in a sense in their image.
Exactly.
And not in the image that's already there for you by using what they teach you. How did you get to this? Is it specifically from text or from experience?
That was experience, totally, 100% experience. Because, like I said, I was teaching a group of ministers, and the piece that they gave me was spiritual fathering. And for whatever reason, I say it was, it was divine from my perspective. I looked at the two leadership styles, and one is the sculptor and one was the potter, and one deals with form and the other dealt with function. And that just kind of blossomed from there. And I think a lot of people, if you're running a business, I think at the same time, not just ministerially, but I think also in business, taking this model, because I really have talked with the chancellor of the school, and I told her, I think this is going to be a book as well.
Yeah,
I think this is going to be another piece of a book that far too many times we're trying to mold people that are in our organization into what we want them to be.
Right.
We're trying to sculpt them into what we want them to be. Understanding with a sculptor, if there's a flaw, you throw it away. So that means people are interchangeable. New material is interchangeable. And so that's why we have a lot of turnover. But in that environment where there's a potter, that's about form. I don't want you to look like me. I want to make you into something that is its own personal vessel that will have its own purpose and that will be used for its own form and whatever that comes out to be. So like I said, I think this is going to end up illuminating into either a chapter or into another book. Yeah.
Huge, because I think, it's like the teacher and the apprentice, right? Like the teacher is there to share the information on how to do something, and you are to receive that. However, sometimes when we receive the teaching, we can find new ways to do something. It's still the same outcome in a sense, or sometimes better, right? But it's in no disrespect to the teacher.
Of course, no.
Because at the end of the day, they were the ones to help you get the ideas.
Of course.
This would be oh man, I'm Miss Ideas. I'm just like, I'm just like,
well,
oh my God, this is huge.
Well, Stacey, I believe that, there's a passage that says, know a tree by the fruit that it bears. But I also believe there's a time where the fruit becomes the tree.
Absolutely.
To bear fruit. So that process continues. But if you are a sculptor, you
Mm,
know, there can be no growth. There's not going to be any fruit unless it
right,
looks like you. And
right,
that's not our purpose. My
right.
purpose is distinct to me. My mentor, Pastor Barry Williams in Augusta, Georgia, Broadway Baptist Church, was one of my greatest mentors. I've had so many and still have so many that are alive and dead through
Mm,
reading or whatever have you. But one thing that he would always say is that your first calling is preparation. No matter
mm,
what it is, your
yeah,
first
that's true.
calling is preparation. And
Mm,
so when we're looking at people to help us to become whatever that may be, when we're looking at people to help us to become, we have to be very, very, I think, very focused on who we're choosing to
mm,
help us become.
yes.
Because the choice in the wrong person, or when you put the right thing in the wrong person's hand,
Yep.
then you can really, really mess it up. I always say, you know, you are the devil or the angel in someone's life, depending on who's narrating.
Mm,
You
well
could be
said.
the angel today, but depending on relationship and all of this other stuff that goes on, you can end up being the devil overnight. And it can also go back and forth. I had a young lady who she looked at me had been looking at me for years, and knew her husband, loved her husband. We've been good friends, and she didn't know me. She just, in
Mm,
her mind, I was the most arrogant person she had ever seen in her life. She said, "I just know this man is just arrogant. He just thinks, you know, that the world and everything just rolls off of him." Until she got to know me.
right.
So in her mind, I was the devil. And
Mm,
now, you know, there's nothing that you could tell her about Dr. Butler that she would not go to bat for me, or
mm,
wouldn't defend me, because now she knows my heart. Um,
mm.
and like I said, depending on who's narrating, you know, you are the angel or the devil in someone's life, depending on the narration.
Right. Absolutely. I think that, I like the way that you said that, because I think sometimes we can get attached to a certain person that we trust in delivering a message, and we stick to that and we use it to formulate our thoughts and ideas when that is through their lens. If you really want to get to know something or someone, you have to kind of expose yourself to it and be in that moment to get to know them or to know whatever the subject is. And I think that is a huge, huge, huge perception there and a huge reality. Um, I think that I want to go on and on and on, but I think I do want to thank you so much for being on my show and sharing how you became you. I think it is an amazing story, and you're only on another chapter, which is just amazing. The book continues.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Stacy, for inviting us. Can I just rabbit trail on what something you said just a few moments? I'm doing a
Sure.
shameless plug here real
Oh,
quick.
go ahead. No worries.
I coined something some times ago, and it's in our book, The Power of Your Destiny. It's called the odds makers, and I
Mm,
and I kind of reshaped it in one of my book, Managing the Miracle. It's called the odds
mm,
makers. That everybody's making odds on you guys.
mm.
Everybody. They're making odds on your success or failure, either consciously or unconsciously. They are making odds on you. You've got to realize, depending on the odds that they're taking on you, that they're either critical odds makers, they're collective odds makers. There are people that are going to be in this with you for the rest of your life. You've got to know how to deal with these people as they come in your life. Everybody does it. We call it judgment, whatever you want to call it. But people are making odds on you, whether your marriage is going to
Mhm.
last, whether you're going to be successful or failure, and know who those people are and how to honor them and draw them to you. And at the same time, to know who people are as well. The odd they're making odds against you, how to keep them out of your inner
Oh
circle.
man.
At the same time, those circles change, because
Yeah.
what do? I get somebody that is a friend, and this is the thing I'll say, and I'm done after this, Stacey, is that you had a preacher on here, so that's your fault.
No, I'm good. Let's go. Tell me.
Here's the big thing. Here's the big thing.
Yeah.
is that we have a problem releasing people when we elevate to another level.
Mm.
I want you to get this. The same people it takes to plant the seed is not the same people it'll take to harvest.
Whew.
I want us to understand that. The same equipment, the same people it
Mm-hmm.
takes to plant the seed, to get you where you were, when you grow to a certain place, and you try to get them to help you out in the harvest, they're not equipped for it. They were only equipped for the seed. They were only equipped for the planting. And so with that said, I'm done, Stacy.
Boom! Real quick, can you just give us a quick rundown? If you remember your social medias, I got your website up here.
Sure.
Where's the best place to find you?
What you have on there right now, drajrbutler.com. You can get us there. You can also our podcast. If you go to momentspod.com, it'll bring you right there also, momentspod.com. Like Stacy said, we own several businesses. One of the businesses we own is Trade Academy Pro, where we teach people how to trade, how to invest in the stock market, Forex. We do charting. The one big thing we do is risk management. We teach you how to have risk management. I used to own an insurance company. I used to have my securities, my 7 and 63. So, but we don't have them anymore, but we teach you how to invest. And we also teach you how to negotiate for investment property, that from an apartment building down to a shanty, shack. But we teach you also how to negotiate for that, and also where you can go to find those properties, property auctions and things of that nature. And in fact, on that website, you can go and we have, you can click on the state that you're in, and it will take you to the Secretary of State, and it'll tell you when the auctions are in for that state. And finally, like I said, my passion project, this is the legacy that we pray that we'll leave behind, is the Grace Project. And you can go to graceproject.info or graceprojecthomes.com. And you can see there, and the property that we just acquired will be up in 2022. And you can see a counter there. And as we move on with that project, it's just an acre of land right now. And as we build on that land, you'll be able to see it come up. And so, and let me say this real quick, Stacy, for that project, every single dime since we've been on the air, every subscriber that we have had goes into that. None of that comes in my pocket. Nothing goes into our administration costs. Everybody that has subscribed, because you were talking about passive income, that passive income goes to 100% of it goes to Grace Project. So all of my subscribers are helping to get people off the street, and helping to give people homes for generations. We're going to create generational wealth together.
Heck yeah. Oh my God, that's beautiful. Thank you so much again for your time. Just stay on for a couple extra seconds. I'm going to just talk to you real quick, but thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
This was a great, I love your show, Stacy. I had a great time with you. And I tell you what, it is just, it's no mistake that you have all the listeners that you do, your personality and your life and everything that you exude is in what you're doing. And so we just thank Abba for you, and thank you for this opportunity just to share on your show.
Oh, thank you so much. Likewise.